Wake.Show. As everybody knows, a show needs an intro. This is that intro. I am Fisher, your host. It's just another Monday. The Lightning could clinch tonight on the road for the Cup of Lord Stanley. Hey, good morning and welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining the Wake.Show. It's just me. Well, that's not true, is it? It's me and the Wake.Pups. How you doing, Joseph? How you doing, JoJo? You all right, buddy? Yes, Dad. Well, sorry. Hello and welcome back. I think this is going to be the last week that I will be populating my personal page with the Wake.Show feed. Starting sometime this week, it'll originate from the Wake.Show. So if you could make your way over to the Wake.Show, I'd really appreciate that. You can just right there in Facebook do /the_Wake_show. And we'll start interacting there. But good morning, Monica, Lauren, Carson, Joey. Good morning, Cassie, Jeff. Good afternoon. Oh, good afternoon. That's right. I didn't start the show until noon today. It was, well, happy Monday. Was not easy getting going today. I know. It's a Monday. Looking forward to next Monday, though. I know. We got a long weekend ahead of us. All right, we'll hit on this day. Got a couple of things to talk about, some things to show you. Hey, Joey, happy Monday to you. And one of the interesting things I saw this morning, because now we have another shooting this past Friday, and this as we wrangle with this issue, continue to wrangle with this issue in America. And you might have even been reading the reports on, like I was, reading about the shooting at Trump's golf course on Friday, when you're getting word that there's a shooting at a high school in Texas. So I saw the police, the chief of police from Houston on television this morning. He said, "Hey Chris, how you doing, man? It's good to see you on the news, on the feed there." Like I said, if you guys could move over to the Wake.Show page, the official Wake.Show page. That'd be cool. Now, it's easier to populate my personal page, but ultimately, good morning, Morgan. Good morning, Damien. It's best for over the Wake.Show. All right, so we'll get to on this day, talk a little bit about what happened over the weekend. The Bolts playing tonight. They could clinch. They're down 0-2, win 2 games in a row in Washington. It's to imagine them winning 3 in a row on the road to clinch. It is a monumental task. Obviously, we've got the team to do it. Good morning, Laura, Benjamin. And so we'll talk a little bit. Well, I don't know if we'll talk about that at all. I mean, that's what's on the plate. That's what we're looking forward to tonight. I'm looking forward to getting home. Oh, while you guys are here, can we talk something a little personal? No, not one of my issues that I need you to, make me feel better about. Grilling. Okay, so as a new homeowner, you're grilling more now, right? And I mean, I know some of the basics when it comes to grilling. I can. Well, Chris, I'm glad you're here. But anyway, long story longer. Chicken breast on the grill. Should you even waste your time? Like, I feel like chicken breast on the grill, if you're not perfect, like if you're not careful, you're going to dry it out and it's going to suck. But I've got a bunch of chicken that I want to grill up tonight and do something with. But I'm wondering if in the end it's just better. Don't mess around with the grill. It's going to be raining tonight anyway, probably. So just put the find some recipe and stick it in the oven. But that's where chicken's best. Oh, unless there's somebody that just has me watching right now, is like, no, wait. If you're gonna do chicken breast on the grill, this is the way you do it. Because also I'm thinking you have to pound it out and make it perfect, right? Like, so it's the same thickness all the way across. Otherwise, one side's going to get crispy and dry as the other side juices up a little bit there. Good morning, Sam. Someone bought BOGO chicken at Publix this weekend. Brett, my wife and I were there yesterday. Good morning, Cords. My wife and I were there yesterday. Low and slow on the grill with chicken. Oh, yeah, that's probably right. So can you do the old, butterfly thing, stick some spinach in there and some like goat cheese, roll it up, stick a little wooden, toothpick through it and on the grill. Would that work, or is that something, again, best probably in the oven? Hi, Mia. Hi there, littles. Make sure you check out the Wake.Pups page on Instagram. Hi there, littles. And now let's get to some of the stories of the day. On this day, how you doing, Cords?
Good, man.
You walk in and zone out in the corner there. You're freaking me out.
Yeah, no. I was just saying hello.
That's all right. All right, the reason that we do on this day in history is because we want to put things in perspective, and we realize no matter how horrible the news is these days, and there's a lot of it, that chances are, in the end, we find civilization will continue, and these will all be footnotes in history. Starting with this day in 1881, the American Red Cross is founded. 1881. Let's see. I know they are a charitable. Let's see how they began, because I'm not even sure. I don't even know the history of them. In Washington, D.C., humanitarians Clara Barton and Adolphus. Now, that is a fine name. Adolphus Solomons found the American National Red Cross, an organization established to provide humanitarian aid to victims of wars and natural disasters, in congruence with the International Red Cross. So if this was 1881, this is right about the time of the Civil War, or right before the Civil, couple of years before this, after the Civil War, 2 years after, 20 years.
16 years after.
That's right. It was the 1860s. Thank you. I'm glad I had have a history buff in here. So 20 years after they established this, Barton, born in Massachusetts in 1881, worked with the sick and wounded during the American Civil War and became known as the Angel of the Battlefield for her tireless dedication. In 1865, President Lincoln commissioned her to search for lost prisoners of war, and with the extensive records she compiled during the war, she succeeded in identifying thousands of Union dead at the Andersonville Prison of War camp. She was in Europe in 1870 when the Franco-Prussian War broke out, and she went behind the German lines to work for the International Red Cross. So, all right. Now we know the beginnings of the American Red Cross tied to the International Red Cross. Also on this D. Oh, do you remember this one? You gotta have a couple. Samantha, you're not gonna remember this one. But do you guys remember the Long Island Lolita? She was arrested on this day in 1992. Holy smokes! Amy Fisher, of course. She's a. Do you remember this one? Cords? No. The Joey Buttafuoco.
Oh yes.
Yeah, you remember she was like six. Well, we'll read here. She was like 16, 17 years old, and remember showed up at his house and shot his wife in the face. I think it was. We'll get to the details here in a second. But Brett says hi. Cords.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I got a couple questions for you when you have time.
All right, well, go ahead and hop on. Ken, on the grill to sear, finish in the oven. Okay, when it comes to the chicken tonight, you ever grilled chicken breast on the? I don't have good light on you this morning. Do you ever grilled chicken breast on the all the time?
On the grill?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, good.
Love it.
What's the best way to do it?
I just like to just throw it on there, and the trick is not to flip it too many times. Okay. So you want to cook it like a medium-high heat, about 400 or 500 degrees for about 7 minutes on one side, and then flip it, and it's about 7-8 minutes on the other side. It comes out perfect.
All right, good. Let's see, Robert. I like to see some Thousand Island dressing beside it, and dip the chicken in every few minutes, and then back on the grill.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was talking to a guy who worked for Bloomin' Brands for a long time. He was their director of innovation, and he was in charge of testing all these different recipes. And you know what consistently won?
What's that?
Salt and pepper.
No kidding.
It won almost every time.
Well, I'll tell you, when I do burgers, that's all it is, salt and pepper. When I do steak, that's all it is salt and pepper. Turkey burgers, no. You got to season the crap out of turkey burgers. Let's see. Oh, yeah, Samantha Miller, I remember. Yeah, of course you remember. Well, I mean, I know the story. And Sam says hi, Cords.
Hello, Sam.
So let's see how good my memory is when it comes to the Amy Fisher Long Island Lolita story. She's arrested for shooting Mary Jo Buttafuoco on the front porch of her home in New York. Fisher, only 17 at the time of the shooting, was having an affair with 38-year-old Joey Buttafuoco, Mary Jo's husband. The tawdry story soon became a tabloid and talk show fixture, the source of 3 television movies and countless jokes. Mary Jo Buttafuoco survived the attack but was left with a bullet lodged in her head and a partially paralyzed face. Fisher, who pled guilty to the shooting, was convicted of assault and received a sentence of 5 to 15 years. The following year, Mary Jo called her a prostitute, yet seemed to think her husband was blameless in the affair. It always amazes me. The mental and emotional gymnastics that we'll do inside our head in order to not face realities like this. Mary Jo called her a prostitute and seemed to think her husband was blameless in the affair. Well, how can you? How is he? Was he a victim? Was he a victim? How's he?
I'm sure he tripped and fell.
All right, Schreiner says when it comes to the chicken, skin down first, if it still has it. Don't turn it until it releases and no longer sticks to the grill.
Right.
All right. There won't be any. Yeah, there's no skin. I've already skinned those bad boys. Mary Jo, while in prison, Fisher claimed that she had been raped by guards and filed a $220 million lawsuit, but the judge who received the complaint said that it read like a cheap dime store novel. Fisher also claimed that her defense attorney, with whom she was having an affair with as well, coerced her into pleading guilty. This line of appeal was not very successful, but Mary Jo Buttafuoco, apparently having a change of heart, eventually helped Fisher get out of prison. I do remember that part of the story where eventually the woman that got shot in the face came around and forgave her at some point. I was on this day in 1992. On this day in 1927, Lindbergh lands in Paris. On this day in 1932, Earhart completes her transatlantic flight. And on this day in 1999, Susan Lucci, soap star Susan Lucci, won her very first Emmy after 19 nominations. Following, being in radio back in those days and following pop culture like you have to, I remember that was a running joke every single year that Susan Lucci got nominated, almost 20 years in a row before she won something. And that is on this day for today. All right, Cords, you said you have some questions. What questions?
Yeah, so I don't know if we want to say exactly who it is, but we're going to go have a meeting tomorrow with one of the greatest talk radio producers ever, right? And so we're going to have an opportunity to talk to him for a couple hours about how he can, how we can make this show huge, right?
Right.
So what do you want me to talk with? What do you want to ask him?
Okay, well, that's a great. I guess I want him to see the show because we're doing something different, right? Mm-hmm. I want him to understand, give him the basic premise of the show, which is, it's like the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon and the Roots, except the Roots is one person, sits with Jimmy Fallon at the table, and has a lot of shit to say. All right, so that's the basic premise that I hope piques. Well, it's already piqued his interest, or else we're not having this conversation. You're not having this conversation. And then, the guy's been doing this for 30, 40 years.
30 years.
30 years. Mm-hmm. Wait, after the meeting, can we talk? Say who it is, or
I think so.
Okay.
So he started in 1991.
Okay, so he started he started on that show then.
I don't know if that was his first radio. I doubt it was his first when he first got started, but he was not the first producer for that show.
Okay. All right. So that's very exciting. Let's see. What else? I want to know. I know this sounds stupid. I want to know his general thoughts because, Chris and I have, I think we have something special and unique.
Right.
I think that if we format the show right, almost said play our cards right, but I mean probably more like format the show right and pick the right content, have the right direction, then I think not only can he and I have a very successful show, just a successful show, but I think we can have an impact, like he and I want to in our communities, here in the Bay Area and around the world. So I guess, ask him. This is what these guys want. They're not just a couple of kids guys fresh out of college who are looking to be the next Howard Sterns. You know what I mean? We're not, we don't have, we're not full of piss and vinegar, ready to take on the world and shock you every single day and see, what we can do to.
But you still want to change the world, though.
We want to affect. Okay, I don't want to. I don't need to change anything. I want to have a positive impact on my community. All right, on my community. So I think that Chris and I can do that because sometimes you if you have that in your heart, you want to do good in the community. You go down that path, but entertainment wise, it's boring. You could sit. You can sit here. We want to change the world every day. Talk about different charities or whatever, but you're not going to have anybody watching, and you're going to bore the crap out of everybody. So Chris and I think have a unique chemistry. He and I have been entertainers for a very long time, and I think we can not only make something entertaining, compelling, provocative at times, but also something that's impactful here in the Bay Area. So that's what I want to do with this show. But he might be like, who cares? Everybody's going to impact their community. Here's what you need to focus on: the X's and O's of making sure you hit this on time and do this bit and this thing, this that way, and whatever. So,
well, I think there's a contrast too between his show
and
the show here, because that show has an extremely strong point of view.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of what you've kind of come up with here is, I think you have a point of view, but maybe that's part of the surprise is we don't know what your point of view is going to be every day.
Well, I think that might be a sticking point with him too, because where he comes from in talk radio, you don't want to be wishy-washy. You pick a side and you stay in that lane. You and everybody, all your listeners are behind you. Like you're the band leader, marching down the road, playing a tune, and all your listeners or viewers are marching behind you with you. So he might say something like that. Hey, you guys, play the middle too much or something like that. You got to pick a side on some things. But we
should definitely ask him that question though. How important it is to how important is it to have to pick a side, have a point of view, pick a lane?
Because I almost feel
consistent.
I almost feel like in this time of left-right rhetoric, everything's either from the left or from the right. I wonder if you do it right, if you can be a champion for the middle, a champion for being a centrist, and not come off wishy-washy, not come off like you're not choosing a side.
I think it's fine as long as you have principles. I think if you can be principled, and your principles can be down, very reasonable. You could focus. Your principle could be, hey, I want to make sure I'm hearing both sides and talking through both sides before I make a judgment, and that's your principle. And I think if you're consistent with that, then you'll be solid.
Now, I thank you very much. Well, good luck tomorrow with that. I'm trying to think what else. I think he's going to be excited about what we have, and because of his experience, his acumen, his broadcasting acumen, I think he is going to give us a couple of pointers that make us go, oh yeah, why didn't we think of that? And and get us focused in the right direction.
That'd be super cool.
How excited are you about this conversation tomorrow?
I'm pretty excited. I mean,
when did you first start listening to that show?
When I was like 11. Riding around actually, no, it wouldn't have been 11. I would have been like 13. And my father used to take me on sales calls, and we used to when I was during the summertime, when I didn't have camp or anything to do, I would just stay home or go to my grandparents' house, and my dad would take me to work sometimes, and we would ride around and listen to the show that he would, help produce. Right. And I just remember being exposed to that very, very long time ago.
For me, it was the early 90s, right before the elections in 92. So in 91, somewhere around 91, 92 is where
exactly
I would started listening to the show. This particular show. And you're like, whoa, what show? What show? We don't want to say right now just yet. We have a meeting tomorrow.
You may be able to guess, but we can't officially say.
Yeah, and there's going to be a certain amount of irony when we bring this up, because that show that we're talking about and this show have very little in common, if anything. But so how weird was it to find out that Chris McCarty had a direct line to this guy? And when he would refer to, I feel like now.
Well, I remember when we had the conversation at that party that we had over here that night, and I guessed. He goes, yeah, that's my dad.
Yeah. He goes, like a spiritual dad, somebody who's gotten really close to over the years. But he had told me about this guy before, and he would use his real name, and I don't know the guy's real name. I know what his radio name is. And so when he it's just a very simple, basic, average name, and he would say this guy's name over and over again. We're talking this and talking that, and then one day, I don't remember, I go, hey, wait a second, are you talking about so-and-so? Yeah, that's the name he uses on the air. I'm like, what? How come you didn't tell me there was that guy?
I know.
So very excited about that. And what are your expectations of that meeting? Coming out of that meeting later today.
I think I'm gonna try to just do everything that So what would so as your partner in this show, where I'm focused on the business side of it,
right?
How do we make it to where this is something you can do for a very long time, support your family, all of those types of things? I'm going to be interested in feedback from him to get us on that path as successfully as possible. And maybe there's someone that he knows or networks we can plug into where we can make that more of a reality sooner versus having to really cut through the woods and machete through the, make our own path by ourselves, right?
Are you going to ask for a selfie?
To be honest with you, that's not my style. I hate that.
I can't do that stuff either.
I hate that stuff. So I don't do that ever.
I think I've tried it like once or twice, and it just feels weird. Even going back to the beginning of my career when I'm 20 years old and an intern in Orlando, and we'd have these artists come through. This was when Shaggy first was getting started. He was fresh out of the military, and the only song he had on the radio back then was "Oh Care." Do you know who Shaggy is?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, Carolina. I would never get autographs or anything like that. Any of those people. And I regret it. I had a 25-year career in radio. I met a lot of athletes. I don't know why I added an extra vowel in that word. I apologize for being ignorant. Athletes. There's no extra E in there. I did the other night at trivia, and the question had the word athlete in it, and I kept saying athlete. And so when people were turning in their pieces of paper, they were spelling it out for me to help me out there. All right, so Sam says, I could never imagine Cords in a business meeting asking for a selfie.
Yeah, no.
Adam goes, hey, Cords, do you have $4,000 to invest in a processor limiter that can be put in front of the encoder? Are we having audio issues as far as you're concerned on your end, Adam? I've always thought this thing is, except for those days that I'm a little hot and whatever. I've always felt like the show sounded pretty good. He's got $4,000. Spend it in, we've got better places to put it.
Yeah.
Right now.
Maybe not right now, unless this show sounds terrible, in which case we might need one.
No, I think the show's sounding okay.
Right.
For now, anyway. All right. Anything else, Courts? Any other questions?
No, I just wanted to see what your thoughts were, and I figured it'd be compelling to ask you right on the air.
I wish. We could say, right?
No. Let's not say it.
Nah, you're right. You don't ever give that. Yeah, you can't. You don't want to jinx anything either. And Samantha says she's playing the show over speakers in her apartment, and it sounds good to her. So, all right. Brett, sounds good to Brett too.
Good.
We're good on that end. All right, Cords.
Well, thanks, everybody.
Good chatting it up with you.
Hey, before I leave, can I bring up a couple quick things that you already mentioned?
Sure.
So there's a book called, I think it's called The 20 Immutable Laws of Marketing, and you were just talking about this day in history. And one of those things was Amelia Earhart doing her trip across the Atlantic, right?
Yep.
And in that book, it's either 40 laws or 20 laws or something like that.
20 immutable laws of marketing, branding, leadership.
Yeah, that's it. And one of the rules was always be first. And in that book, it uses the example of how Lindbergh was the first to fly over the Atlantic, right? Okay. In the Spirit of St. Louis.
All right.
Well, Amelia Earhart was the third. I don't even know who the second was, but she was the first woman.
Right.
So always position yourself as the first is the rule. And I just thought that was a nice tidbit of information that I picked up long time ago. And I thought it'd be useful to share with everybody.
The 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing. As Al Rise and Jack Trout, the world-renowned marketing consultants and best-selling authors of positioning, note, you can build an impressive airplane, but it'll never leave the ground if you ignore the laws of physics, especially gravity. Why then, they ask, shouldn't there be laws of marketing that must be followed to launch and maintain winning brands? The 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing that offer a compendium of 22 innovative rules for understanding and succeeding in the international marketplace. All right. Is that the one you were talking about?
I think that's the book. I have not actually read it, but I was told about that passage. Yeah.
Last week we had Dion, the owner of Kelly's Chickaboom Room. Mm-hmm. And he was talking about, it's either him or one of the guests we had on last week was talking about how they're always reading some kind of a marketing book, a business book, how to get ahead book. Is that you too, or now that, or where you are in your career, you don't have time to read anything? You've got too many.
I've always, the only thing I really like to read is the news.
Okay.
I hardly ever read any kind of marketing books or any of those types of things. The most useful content ever for professional development I've ever taken part in was the Dale Carnegie class.
Huh.
I learn so much better in a sort of like an interactive environment. It's way better than reading for me.
All right. Well, I'm more of an audiobook kind of a guy myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just I start to read, and then my eyes start to fall pretty quickly. Normally, and it looks like Pepper's ready to go.
Yeah, Pepper's ready to leave the studio. She's waiting by the door.
She's trying to push the door
I think
open.
that's my cue.
All right, Cords. We'll talk to you.
See ya.
All right, Adam says, don't get me wrong, you guys sound great. It's just something to sweeten the audio and control transients down the road when you guys make it big. All right, when we're on the verge of making it big is when we'll add that $4,000 piece of equipment. Thank you, Cords. I got a couple of things that I want to talk to you guys about today. First of all, the shooting on Friday. This obviously continues the discussion. There was a couple of interesting things that came out of the sheriff. Was his name Acevedo? I don't want to get this wrong. It's not Acevedo. All right, so let's just go ahead and get to that. The gunfire tearing through Santa Fe High School didn't stop for nearly a half an hour. And during this time, Texas deputies were in a 25-minute shootout with the gunman. By the end of the melee, 8 students and 2 teachers were killed. The suspect was taken into custody, and once again, the country is grappling with yet another school massacre. So, we've got some new details to go over here, but one of the things I want to pose to you guys so you can start talking about it, and is thank you so much for those of you that have switched over. Carson, Robert, Candace, Morgan, all of you that have switched over to the Wake.Show. That's going to be huge. I think this is going to be the last week of us live streaming on my personal page. And I think after this, everything will be just live streamed through our business pages, including the Wake.Show. So if you could, migrate over to the Wake.Show and watch and interact through there. So this morning, okay, so on Friday, you had the police chief there in the Houston area, obviously very frustrated, saying he is sick and tired of hearing lawmakers offering up nothing but prayers during times like this. Now, for those of you that are more religious, don't let the, and you're starting to get a little riled. He was not bashing on that at all. He says prayers are very important in times like these. But there needs to be a lot more than just prayers. So he was asked, well, you know, what are some of the things you would offer up? If they said, give us 3 things right now to focus on. And the sheriff said, he goes, I'm going to give you 3 things. Basically, I'm going to paraphrase here, but he says, I want to give you 3 things, but don't get hyper-focused on these 3 things. This would just be a start. This is just some things that we could be doing right now better. But he goes, it's much more comprehensive and bigger than this. First and foremost had to do with comprehensive background checks, and he what he called with teeth. They need to have teeth, so that responsible Americans and Americans of sound mind are the ones that are in possession of guns. All right, so good, law-abiding and of sound mind Americans should be the only ones with guns. He also talked about how there needs to be teeth for those who try to circumvent the law, try to defraud these laws to get their guns anyway. So if that happens, it's not a slap on the wrist. You're not just going to go, oh, we caught you trying to get a gun. You know you're not supposed to have a gun. Come here. Now get back out there and quit trying to buy guns. Instead, so he's saying that there needs to be some real teeth for people that try to circumvent that. He said when it comes to the discharging of a weapon, there needs to be, I guess, sharper teeth in those laws as well. So if you use a weapon in the commission of a crime, there needs to be serious ramifications for that. And then I think the third thing that he brought up this morning when I was watching was the mental health aspect of this. And there needs to be a focus on the mental well-being of Americans. And again, he reiterated that these aren't the answers. Don't take my statements as the police chief of Houston and go, here are the 3 things that we need to do according to the police chief. You asked me, give me 3 things. I'm giving you 3 things. This is just some stuff that we could be dealing with right now, but there needs to be a lot more. There's a this needs to be a full-on comprehensive approach. Now, for those of you that are much more passionate Second Amendment enthusiasts and gun advocates, one of the things that was being talked about this weekend, or one of the things being talked about is there's more and more people going, this issue of mass shootings needs to be attacked on all fronts. There needs to be stuff that happens on all fronts. And the frustration is there's a lot of people going, all right, we need to talk about the gun control. We need to talk about mental health. We need to talk about arming. Who can we arm? Are there people already within the schools that have the qualifications? All we got to do is make sure they go through a course every quarter, or twice a year or something like that to keep them up, and start arming some of these teachers that are in school, so on and so forth. But then it seems like those in the gun lobby area, they won't talk about anything. When it comes to the NRA, they won't talk about anything when it concerning guns. Except for we need more guns. So they're not, the NRA, or I don't even know if it's the NRA, but somebody in that world who's a huge advocate, huge defender of the Second Amendment, loves that America has that right, but understands that there needs to be certain parameters. Those, I don't know. All right, so that's why I said let's get you guys chewing on that a little bit. As we move on to the next story. All right, no, actually, let me get back to this here. I threw that out there. Let me get to some of the details, and then we'll move on here in a couple minutes. Officers arrived at the school's art lab section about 4 minutes into the shooting and engaged the shooter right away. But it's unclear whether all the victims were shot by the suspect or whether some were shot by deputies during the crossfire. They said authorities are waiting for the medical examiner's autopsies to make that determination. Quote, a decent amount of cameras are in the school. Will help investigators piece together a timeline. The suspect told an investigator he acted alone and spared people he liked because he wanted his story told. This comes back now to... This comes back to some of you who feel like one of the things that we can do now is when this stuff happens, you don't show the person's face and you don't put the person's name out there, the murderer, the massacrer, for people like that. So if you think that you're going to get your 15 minutes of fame, you're not going to get it. If you're somebody like this you think you're going to get your story told after a massacre, you're not going to get that. I've been somebody who is adamantly against that, vehemently against that for years. As a matter of fact, it makes me angry. It frustrates me when I flip on the TV after something like this and I hear that's where the discussion has gone. Well, first thing we need to do is not talk about their names. And because to me, I'll tell you why it makes my head explode, is because it seems like such a literally childish, adolescent approach. Well, we don't know what to do, so we're not going to say their names. But the fact is, there are kids out there like this. There are people out there that go through with it, so they do get their names out there. Probably not half. Probably not a quarter of them. But if it's 1 out of 10 of them, or 2 out of 10, or 3 out of 10 of these mass murderers are doing it so they do get their name out there, then maybe if that is policy, if from now we go, listen, you got a story to tell, then go to a psychologist. You got a story to tell, go Baker Act yourself. Call somebody and say, hey, I'm getting ready to do horrible things. I need to be observed for the next 72 hours. And somebody will come and get you, okay? You're not going to be able to slaughter a group of people and get your story out there. But that again, I feel like that's, for lack of a better term, peeing on a fire. You got a huge forest fire and we're going, hey, well, there's water in our pee. Let's just pee on it and see what happens. I feel like it's got that kind of effect, but maybe I'm wrong on it. And maybe you guys who have been very passionate on the opposite side of that for years, there's something to what you're saying, because there are those people that will do something like this to get their story told. One of the students killed, Shayna Fisher, had rejected the suspect's advances for months. Her mother, Sadie Bays, had said. Finally, about a week ago, she stood up to him in the middle of class and proclaimed she would not go out with him. Now, she believes the incident embarrassed the suspect so much that he targeted her. One of the shotgun shells was for my daughter, she said. Another student killed, Jared Black, turned 17 last week and was supposed to have a birthday party on Saturday. The massacre also claimed the lives of students Sabika Sheikh, a Pakistani exchange student, Chris Stone, Angelique Ramirez, Christian Riley Garcia, Aaron Kyle McLeod, and Kimberly Vaughn. Teachers Glenda Ann Perkins and Cynthia Tisdale were also killed. The people hospitalized include retired Houston police officer John Barnes, who served as a resource officer at the school and confronted the gunman. From what I understand, there were 2 resource officers, and both of them confronted the gunman very quickly, very heroically. The suspect even yelled, "Woo-hoo!" Authorities identified the gunman as Demetrius Pagortsis, 17. He was armed with a shotgun and a .38 caliber handgun, both legally owned by his father. Deidre Van Ness, daughter of Isabel Lamont, survived the shooting by hiding in a classroom closet. In a Facebook post on Saturday titled "Longest Day of My Life," she said her daughter told her the gunman was yelling "woo-hoo" as he fired in the classroom next door. He's being held without bail and is accused of capital murder of multiple people and aggravated assault on a public servant. He has not entered a plea. Attorneys said that they met with this guy for 2 30-minute visits and said his client is not doing well and is confused. The suspect won't face death penalty if he is convicted under Texas law. Offenders who are under the age of 18 and charged with a capital offense face a maximum punishment of life in prison with the possibility of parole after 40 years. So that is the latest coming out of Texas, coming out of Houston. Let's see, from Elliot, I would possibly recognize his face, but I don't know the kid's name. I only remember about half or less of these shooters' names. That's a really good point, too, for those people. Oh, you're right. I don't remember the name of the guys that shot up Columbine. I don't remember the name of the kid that shot up Sandy Hook. I mean, like I said, I now can see that if in the context of a very comprehensive, multifaceted, multi-layered approach to tackling this, if that's one of a dozen or 3 dozen things that we put on the table, okay, so maybe it might curb a few percentages, a few percentage points. If all of a sudden, I don't know if we pass a law or whatever that is, if you commit a mass murder, your name will not be said out loud. But then again, when I say that out loud, it just seems so, I don't know, just ineffective, stupid. All right. Thank you, Morgan. I'm sorry, you guys. I know it seems weird. You're like, well, hell, man, I can watch you on your personal Facebook page. Why do you want me to go over to the Wake.Show? It's because we are hoping that this show will be successful one day. And your personal Facebook page can only hold 5,000 friends. I'm barely halfway there. And I don't know, it's just the way it needs to be. That's just the way it has to be. So I think this is going to be the last week of me sending a live feed right to my personal Facebook page. From there on out, I'll just be sharing this feed on my personal, and we'll be going live on the Wake.Show Monday through Friday at about 11:30. What's his story? What story did he want to be told? That he was embarrassed? He's a teenager that got fixated on a female. Teenage boy got fixated on this girl, and she kept telling him no. According to the reports, she kept telling him no. And then at some point, but I hope we learn more of these details, because if this kid wouldn't take no for an answer, I guess that's the climate that we're trying to change, right? Because back in my day, which is not, it's still my day, by the way, it's still my day. I don't know, when you're brought up in a very competitive culture like we are, what are one of the things that you're told? What are the things that they teach you in business? You don't take no for an answer. Now, by the way, I'm not talking about rape here, okay? I'm just talking about if you're courting somebody, you want to show them that you really care. You keep trying, you know. And but this kid's obviously nuts, and has lost his grip on reality, if he ever had a grip on reality. So he kept going and going, and then he got his ego just bashed. She stood up in class and embarrassed him. I'm not going to go. I don't know what she said specifically. Maybe we'll find those details. And then embarrassed him. Embarrassed him so much that it sent him into a murderous rage. Kurt says the names are still in the news. Yep, the names are still in the news for now. Thanks, Kurt. I appreciate you guys hopping over to the Wake.Show. Maybe we shouldn't be getting young men fixated so much on having sex. How many of these shooters are just sexually frustrated? What's that last word? Inside? And sexually frustrated? It's interesting you bring that up. Chatting it up with a buddy of mine a couple weeks ago after the last, I guess it's been a couple months now, after the last shooting. And that's one of the points he brought up. He goes, he thinks it's because we have perverted sex so much, and the Puritan, history that we come from, and a perverted sex so much that, we don't handle sex properly as we are entering into our teen years. And I don't have any. I don't know the answers. Because I want to handle like, hey man, you got to let us humans be humans. We're entering those years, and I know we got to be careful because you don't want to get knocked up at 15 years old or to knock anybody up at 15 years old. The diseases that come along. There's a lot of responsibility. But at the same time, it is as you hit that age, whatever that age is for you, some 13 or 18, and then for the next 20 years. It is a huge driving force in your body, and we've just, like I said, it's our religious, and I'm not knocking on our religions and our history and so on. I'm not laying blame anywhere. I'm just saying this is partly where this comes from. Is this we pretend that our children are not going through those phases, and just turn a blind eye and go, okay, well, hopefully if I don't talk about sex or don't allow it in the house, they can't watch it on TV, then they'll make it through their teen years and into adulthood and into marriage without getting pregnant or ending up with a disease or something like that. So there might be something to it. There might be something to that part of it. I agree with that. The sexual desire and not taking no for an answer is a learned behavior. Involuntary celibate equals incel. Oh, so that wasn't a word. All right, maybe we shouldn't be getting young men fixated so much on having sex. So Elliot, are you saying that our culture gets young men fixated on sex and that it's not something that's more innate? I think it's probably both. It is innate, and then our marketing and our television shows and our movies and our music and this and that play off of something that's already in us. And I guess so. How many of these shooters are just sexually frustrated incels, involuntary celibate? I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if that is, a variable. It's tied into it somehow. Oh, I'm sorry. Your phone is dying, Sharon. All right, next up, did you guys, what did you think of this? Did you think of the Pope? The Pope saying it's okay to be gay. God loves you. I would imagine if you're uber religious, fundamental religious, you're probably not watching. Two, like where the hell does he get off saying this? Pope Francis has told a gay man that God loves him during a private meeting. It has been claimed in a private dialogue the pontiff is understood to have told Juan Carlos Cruz, a victim of sexual abuse at the hands of Catholic priests, that God loves gay people and it is fine to be homosexual. The comments are most striking, are the most striking public acceptance about homosexuality ever made by the head of the Roman Catholic Church. The remarks were made during a private meeting at the Vatican between the pair, in which the Pope offered a heartfelt apology. Cruz was a victim of Chile's most notorious pedophile, priest Fernando Caradima. Father Kadima, now 87, was found guilty of sexual abuse by the Vatican in 2011. Cruz claims that his suffering was ignored by a number of Latin American bishops who used his homosexuality to brand him a liar when he spoke out. Well done, Church, well done. Speaking to Spanish newspaper, the Pope told me, Juan Carlos, that you are gay does not matter. God made you like this and loves you like this, and I don't care. Quote, the Pope loves you like this. You have to be happy with who you are, unquote. The Pope's words signal a much more open and inclusive approach by the often restrictive faith, a move which will likely upset many conservative Catholics. The Vatican has neither confirmed or denied the comments the pontiffs made. Well, I think they're gonna have to, one way or another. They're gonna have to confirm or deny the comments of the Pope one way or another. I hope it's I don't know, man. I don't want to do. It's Monday. I don't feel like delving into religion too much. It seems like a positive sign is all. Just got the charger. Good, Sharon. Good. The incel stuff is crazy. Read up on some of it yesterday. Well, let me look up some of it too. I agree with that. Incel. What is this incel? So, Urban Dictionary, incel Wikipedia. Involuntary celibacy are members of an online subculture who define themselves as being unable to find a romantic or sexual partner despite desiring one, a state they describe as inceldom. Self-identified incels are almost exclusively male and mostly heterosexual. Discussions on incel. So involuntary celibacy. So you mean people that can't get laid? That's involuntary celibacy, people who can't get laid. That's what you're saying. Okay. Discussions on the forums are often characterized by resentment, misanthropy, misogyny, racism, entitlement to sex, and the endorsement of violence against sexually active women and more sexually successful men. The Southern Poverty Law Center has described the subculture as part of the online male supremacist ecosystem. Oh, man. This is fascinating. Male supremacy. And self-described incels have committed at least 4 mass murders already in North America. Well, looks like we've stumbled upon something. Thank you, Elliot, and thank you, Kurt. While we're at it, while we're at male supremacy, it's nice to see Pat Largo chiming in. Speaking of male supremacy, he says, well, it's all damage control now. After what has and probably still is going on in the Catholic Church, the pontiff will pretty much okay anything. Step right up, folks. Everybody gets in. I was like, oh, so that's what you're thinking because the numbers are down? The Pope's just going, hey, God loves you all. Come on in. We don't care what you've done or who you are. The Pope is the best Pope the Catholics have ever had, says Sharon. So, there is this thing among some men, that it's because, one of the things that I saw, that jumped out about these incels, involuntary celibacy, and they're angry and they're supreme men, was the endorsement of violence against sexually active women. And that jumped out at me because I was just having this discussion with somebody last week, and I asked them if they were joking. They said kind of. And it basically came down to once, because I said, I don't remember who we were talking about or what we were doing, how we got into the conversation. But it was basically that we got to this point where I go, so what you're saying is, as soon as a woman owns her own sexuality, decides to unbutton an extra button or shake it a little bit, as soon as she quits, she doesn't act like a lady for just a moment, then that's a signal to you that you no longer have to act like a gentleman, and you can just reach out. Oh, well, if you're going to dance like that If you're going to wear something like that, if you're going to show off your hoots like that, well, then you're not practicing the modern day whatever of being a lady, so I'm not going to be a gentleman, and I'm now going to treat you like the dirty little whore that I already believe you to be deep in my soul. Sorry. I think I added that part. Which is very curious, because that's not the first time that I've had that conversation with a guy. And we don't see eye to eye. And it's not like we're joking about it. The person that I'm having a conversation with is very firm in how they see things. You want to be treated like a lady, act like a lady. If you want to be treated like a whore, act like a whore. And that's just the way they see things. So I guess that's these guys too, is they get they can't get sex themselves, but then they see a girl that they're in love with or infatuated with, want to dominate themselves, and she's known to have had sex. Well, if she's had sex with that guy, well, then she can have sex. She will have sex with me, because I'm better than that guy. And if she'll give it up there, well, then she'll give it up here. And if not, she's a hypocrite, and I'll make things very uncomfortable for her. So I know that frame of mind is out there, and I just did not know that there was a subculture of involuntary celibates who have all come together. 4 of which hold on a second here. 4 of these self-proclaimed incels have already been involved in 4 mass murders, according to this. Oh, please. I don't think they're going to give it to me. It was blue, but it was just going to take me to what mass murders were, not what mass murders they committed. We slut-shame women and virgin-shame men. We're turning girls into repressed, ashamed women and boys into angry, violent men. Nailed it. Nailed it. We slut-shame our women and virgin-shame the men. We're turning girls into repressed, ashamed women and boys into angry, violent men. I can't disagree with that. What else? I got something. I got a video I want to show you guys. It'll make you smile. Look at your screen. Look at your screen. I'm going to pull up a video for you. And this is a video that I'm allowed to show, because it's my video. One of the really cool things that have been afforded me, thanks to a really cool career in media, is being asked to come out and host things. Just grab a microphone and do what I do. Talk. And I got asked again this past weekend. Oh, no, please. I know you're going to be in. There you are. There you are. So one of the things that I do in this gig economy is I announce races. I've never run a 5K or 10K or half mile or a half marathon or a marathon. Oh, I guess that's not true. I'm sorry. Back in high school, I did run some 5Ks. I joined the track team just so I could get in good enough shape to try out for the baseball team. And technically, I did run some races, so I have run some 5Ks in my life when I was 16 years old. So, this is the second video, I think. All right. So I just.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome. All right, it's time to clear the chutes.
All right, that's not the video. Hold on a second. Hold on. Settle down, me. Where's the other one? All right, this is the one I wanted to show you. So the race that I did over the weekend was all children's, and I can't say enough great things about the event. About most of these events, they're so just, I don't know, great energy, great positive energy that comes crossing that finish line over and over and over again. It's an exhausting day, but it's exhausting. I sit at the start line and send everybody off, and then I stand at the finish line and say everybody's names as they're coming across and congratulations, and it's an exhausting day. Did I run a 10K? No. I just stood at the finish line and saying people's names, and it's an exhausting day. But this particular event is cool because they did a kid sprint after it was all said and done. So the kids it was probably only about 100 yards or 200 yards or something like that. And they give all the kids capes, little red capes. And then on your mark, get set, go. So here we go. On your mark, get set, go. Place your bets now. Place your bets in the kids. Go.
Look at God, look at that! Great runs! Look at all those super boys and those super girls coming across the finish line. Great job, you guys. Great finish.
Watch this. Okay, so that little, oh, wait, hold on here. This little one right here, she was I think her name's Julia or Caroline. Hold on a second. Hold on. Let me pull up. I want to tell you about her story. She was from Team Caroline Julie. I believe that is Caroline, okay? Now, her and her cousin were at the hospital, Julia and Caroline.
Caroline!
Julia, her cousin, unfortunately, did not make it. So they had a team of about, I'm going to tear up. I can feel it. They had a team of like 52 people out there, I believe was the number. And so her cousin, as the story goes, and I'm sorry, I apologize if I'm getting some of this wrong, but from my understanding, her cousin was admitted to the hospital first. Neuroblastoma, does that sound right? Or something something that sounds like that. And 6 months later, this little girl, Caroline, ends up with the same disease. Now, Julia didn't make it, her cousin, and she's doing all right, I guess. She's hanging in there. I don't know the status, but that's her crossing the finish line. Now look at this little guy. We'll have a moment of, after that moment of, sadness there. Now we'll have a moment that'll make you smile. Because then you have this little kid who crosses the finish line, loses his shoe, and that's, his world crumbles once his shoe comes off. So he turns around, starts heading back towards mom and dad. There's somebody to put his shoe back on. So it's Caroline there. See this little kid? Poor guy.
Oh, that's all right, buddy. We'll get that shoe back on you. You'll be okay. You'll be all right, little man.
To go back to a time where the worst thing that could happen in a day is your shoe falls off. That would be awesome. So thank you so much, all Children's and St. Jude's and everybody, Best Damn Events, the production people behind the scenes that put it all on. Thank you for having me out there. Those, please call me again next year. Those, it's a cool event. Kurt, look up Elliot Rodger, generally believed to be the first to kill under the incel concept. Guys, was not well in the head. Elliot Rodger, I don't know. How about this? How about we just we get back to work? I don't mean like fixing stuff. I mean get back to work. You got a job to do today. Get back to work. Take a few deep breaths. Put some of the worst stuff from over the weekend out of your head. Let's get focused on the Lightning tonight. If all goes well, they'll clinch in D.C. If you're a betting man, do you bet on the Lightning tonight to win 3 in a row on the road? I'm thinking if I'm a gambling man, I don't want to I'm going to throw this out in the universe anyway. I'm not betting on the Lightning tonight. I think the Capitals, I know they're known as the, what the hell's I forget what they call them. That they keep getting in their own way, tripping over their own feet or whatever it is. But it's still a professional hockey team that made it to the playoffs. And to lose 3 games in a row at home, that's a difficult task. Can be done, but if I'm a betting man, then I'm thinking that the Lightning probably drop this game tonight, then come back home and clinch here. So, well, good luck to the Lightning, and I hope you guys have a lot of fun tonight. Have a great Monday. We'll be back tomorrow. Chris will be in here. The only reason Chris isn't here today is he doesn't come in on Mondays. Just for those of us that gig, which, let's see, that does not relate to too many of you. Monday is like our Sunday. And so Chris takes full advantage of that. I unfortunately made the mistake when I started the show of saying we were going to do this 5 days a week. So I'm grandfathered in. I can't take Mondays off. So thank you so much for being a part of the Wake.Show today. And oh, by the way, what I had around my neck today, let me do this. This was the medal that came from the all children's race from over the weekend. There you go. Cool medal, huh? Cool bling. I kind of regret because I've announced now, I don't know, 30, 40 races. And I wish I would have collected one of these from every race. The reason I didn't do it starting from the beginning is for obvious reasons. The people that are running it, the people that trained, the people that are working hard, they deserve the bling at the end, right? But now that I'm like 30 deep, into doing these races, I wish I had 30 of these medals to hang up and go, oh, hey, see all those races? I didn't run one of them. I ran my mouth at the end, at the finish line for every single one of those. All right, Kurt, and I'll look up Elliot Rodger. I don't know if, I guess I probably should. If this is becoming the next criminal trend in America. We've had 4 mass shootings already with these people that claim to be involuntary self. So, no, I was just going to make a joke. Will somebody please bang these guys before they shoot up something else? But that's a horrible joke. So why'd you say it? I don't know, because I'm half horrible. All right, so thank you so much, fan. Go Bolts. Have a great, Collapsidals. Thank you. That was it. The Collapsidals. Thank you, Adam. Go Bolts. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow. Chris will be in tomorrow. So here we go. Have a great day. Take care of yourself. Be good to your fellow man. And most importantly, let your crazy breathe. Just a little bit. Wait, this one.